you tell us a little more about for sale by owners? And what I'm wondering about is the initial conversation, the initial contact, the script that you're using. Could you tell us about that very first sentence or two that you use? How do you get that conversation flowing with the for sale by owner?
Well, you get it flowing like you do every other conversation. You start with a question and then you don't say anything else. Mike, my name is Chris. I'm calling about the home for sale at 123 Main Street. And I just stop because depending on how they respond is going to tell me what kind of a person I'm dealing with. Not many of them, but some of them are right off the bat. Well, you know, they can tell you're an agent. Well, who are you? Why are you, like, what do you want to know? They kind of have that edge to them. Others are, you know, they go into a 10-minute conversation about their home and you didn't even say another word. Say, well, and because I don't introduce myself until I get that next response. Okay, well, my name is Chris. I'm a real estate agent here in the neighborhood, and I'm just curious. I see it's for sale. How much are you asking? All I'm doing is asking questions about the home, and that's where a lot of the times I'll get, well, it's on Zillow. You can just go look at Zillow, so that's why that comes up quite a bit. But ultimately, most people are going to tell you quite a bit and probably more than you really want or need to know about the home, but you get them talking, you get the conversation moving that way. And you simply get to a point where in that first call you say, you know, I think that's great. You know, they all want to know if you have buyers and say, yeah, we do. We've got a lot of buyers. I'm not sure if any of them would be a fit for your home, which is why I'm calling. So we could do one of two things. I could actually stop by and come and see it. And while I'm there, Mike, I could actually show you some of the things that we're doing to get so many homes sold, if that's okay. Because I never bait and switch. I never say, oh yeah, you know, let me see if it could work for my buyers. And then I show up with a listing presentation in my hand. You just burn a bridge. So you have to get permission if you're going to go there. And I wouldn't go there, by the way, unless I had permission to be able to share a few things that we're doing to get so many homes sold. Because I want to make sure that if I'm going to go to their house, I'm going to have that conversation. Because otherwise, I don't need to go to their house. I can have that conversation over the phone. So if they say, you know, no, that's fine, I'm good. If you have a buyer, you're paying 3%. Okay, great. Let me ask you, Mike, have you thought about maybe a timeline at this point about how long you might continue to try and sell this home on your own? And I stop or I might say something, you know, Mike, many sellers at some point after so long of trying will start to look at their options. Have you thought about how long you might try this on your own and consider a plan B? Just different things like that. Really what I'm looking for is the level of commitment that they have, and you can hear the honesty. Some of them are going to lie to you and say, oh, I'm not listing no matter what. Others are pretty honest, and they're going to say, hey, I'm probably going to give it a couple more weeks, whatever. And now I've got a plan. Now I've got my database open, my CRM open, I'm taking notes, setting up my next follow-up call. Maybe there was something that was said that I could circle back to when I speak to them next. But ultimately, you're asking a couple questions about the house, number one, and number two, how long they're going to try and sell this on their own, and if they've thought about a plan B. And that's pretty much it. Can't get a whole lot more done on that initial call, but at least, you know, and then you've got to, if you can actually get your foot in the door and say, well, you know, we are working with a ton of buyers right now, and could be a fit, and maybe I could come over and take a look at the home. And while I'm there, by the way, because if you do get to that point where you start to look at your options, I could show you some of the things that we're doing. So at least when you get to that point, you at least know what we're doing. Because again, I want that permission because it's really important for the conversation we're going to have and the expectation going forward.
Chris, with for sale by owners, what's your conversion ratio? What I mean by that is, let's say 100 for sale by owners come into your pipeline over the course of a year. You find 100 of them and put them into your system. How many of those will turn into listings?
Well, I probably should know that because I could go into my system right now and tell you how many are in there and how many have been in there over the course of a year and tell you how many I listed. I don't know, to be honest with you. I should know. But if I had to guess, Mike, I'd say, in all honesty, 25 to 35% when I think about it that way. That's just the reality of it. There's a ton of them out there, and there's a lot of competition for them, and not all of them are going to list. So I'd say about 25 to 35% maybe.
Well, Chris, I find that a little humorous, and here's why. You just told me that your conversion ratio is 1 in 3, 1 in 4, which to me sounds really awesome, and to you it sounded really bad. So That's why I found humor there. I think you're doing a fantastic job. That's incredible that you're converting 1 in 3, 1 in 4 of the people that come into your system into listings. That's awesome. Another question would be a time frame. You said it takes some follow-up. You mentioned before to take 2 to 6 weeks before someone decides to do something. During that time, how many contacts are you typically making before someone decides to bring you over for an appointment?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say on average about 2 to 3 is all. I'm seeing people that end up listing are listing sooner in that 2 to 6 week period than the majority are happening in the first 3 weeks. It's the exception, the ones that are holding out 5, 6 weeks. Those are the ones that are more or less, those are probably the 2 or 3 that we're not getting on average because they're really committed, or maybe our follow-up slipped up and we missed a call, or whatever the case is. But generally, if you can get 1 or 2 calls on them and you can actually get your foot in the door, oftentimes after that first or second call and you physically show up, they're either moving forward on the spot or they're calling you back, or you're calling them back one more time and they said, yeah, it's time, we're going to do this now. Because it's just a process of them opening up to the possibility that maybe this isn't going to work. And that's really where it's at. So designing your day and your schedule around that is probably the most critical component of your success. Anybody can have a great sales call or a great presentation, and if you're not geared for the follow-up, you're just going to miss so many of those future opportunities.
Just a curiosity, how many for sale by owners do you think you've listed over the years?
Oh, it would have to be hundreds. I don't know. I should, I don't know much about my numbers, unfortunately, but there's been many. And there's been some great stories. I had one just actually call me the other day who I went, and this was back to the first caller I hired. She had got me this appointment, and I went over on like 6:30 in the evening, and the wife was there and the husband was running late, so I did the walkthrough with the wife and thought that went really well, and we had a great connection going, and the husband came home, and he was kind of already like, why are we doing this type of a thing? And before you knew it, we all were clicking, and it was actually quite funny. The door got knocked on when we were literally in the process of signing, and it was a group of agents from another office who were out canvassing for sale by owners that night, and they said, no, we're just listing right now. They're like, oh, shoot. I got them listed, and they actually sold in a day. And they just called me like a month ago and said, hey, my mother passed away last year. We're going to sell her home now, and we wouldn't work with anybody but you because you sold our house in a day. Those are the things that when you do this and you see your system and your service work for someone that was really geared to try it on their own and everything else, and then see them actually call you back and that you were successful in selling their home, that's a really great feeling.
That is awesome. I heard years ago that a lot of for sale by owners put that sign in the yard simply because they're looking for an agent. They don't know who to call, and they're just going to try this while they find one.
That's a great story. I could talk stories all day. I remember one, I was coming home from the office one day around 5:30, and it's a hot July day, and I saw this husband and wife, and he actually had a shovel in his hand, and they were installing a post sign of their own. And I'm like a knee-jerk reflex. I see this, and I immediately did a U-turn, drove into their driveway, jumped out with my car, and I said, you guys are working way too hard already. I mean, we haven't even got the sign in the ground. You're breaking a sweat. I need to come over here and show you guys how I can help you. I had an appointment the next morning. I listed them that morning, and that was another great sale. But, you just have to be really geared for it and see it as the fastest source of business opportunity. That's what FSBO stands for. It's just opportunities all around you.
If you like this video, click the subscribe button and get notified when the newest clips are available. Also, hit that like button so other agents know how good it is. And if you'd like to hear the entire interview that this clip came from, open up a web browser, type www.topagentinterviews.com, press go, and get free access to 2 new interviews every month, plus dozens of past calls. And feel free to share this video with a friend. Remember, if you want to be a top agent, do what top agents do. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. Keep moving forward.